Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today. We are going to be talking about a massive, fundamental mindset shift in how organizations actually grow. Look, we're moving completely away from that old transactional way of just frantically plugging open seats because somebody handed in their 2-week notice. No way. Instead, we're diving into how the absolute best companies build a modern strategic foundation. So if you want to understand the real mechanics behind how top-tier teams are built from the ground up and exactly how you can apply these principles to your own environment, you are in the exact right place. But hey, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let me just ask you a question directly. Are talent acquisition and recruitment the same thing? Like, really think about it for a second. Are these just overlapping pieces of corporate jargon people throw around in meetings to sound smart? Or is there a genuine, measurable, operational difference between the two? Keep that question right in the back of your mind as we unpack this whole thing today. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap to solving the mystery of how companies truly scale. 1. The big hiring question. 2. The evolution of hiring strategy. 3. Recruitment versus talent acquisition. 4. Inside the TA ecosystem. And finally, 5. The end-to-end life cycle. So jumping into section 1. The big hiring question. Let's look at exactly why organizations actually need talent acquisition in the first place. If you've ever been part of a team and felt that sharp, acute pain of an empty seat, or honestly worse, the lingering disruption of a truly bad hire, you already know the stakes here are incredibly high. Let's quantify that for just a second. Studies consistently show that a bad hire can cost a company up to 30% of that employee's first-year earnings. I mean, that is staggering when you start scaling it across an entire company. Sure, a reactive approach might plug a hole for a week, but simply filling a seat? It just isn't enough anymore. Organizations absolutely need talent acquisition to build a modern hiring foundation. You can't just hire to put out today's immediate fire. You've got to acquire talent for exactly where the business is heading tomorrow. We are quite literally talking about building the engine of your company's future. And that brings us to section 2, the evolution of hiring strategy and this massive paradigm shift we're seeing. Let's move through this and see how it builds. Decades past, hiring was basically just reactive recruitment. Someone quits, you run an ad in the local paper, interview whoever happens to apply, and you hire them. Boom, done. It was essentially a game of proximity and timing. But in recent years, man, the work became immensely complex. Technology advanced, global markets completely opened up, and that old way, it became way too slow and painfully inaccurate. It was honestly like throwing darts blindfolded, which leads us to today. We've completely shifted to strategic talent acquisition. It's proactive, it's continuous, and it is a highly targeted discipline. It's all about cultivating relationships and a strong brand presence long before a crucial role even opens up. Moving into section 3, recruitment versus talent acquisition. Let's do a deep comparison here. This is really where we separate the amateurs from the pros. It's kind of funny how corporate jargon overlaps, right? You hear these terms used interchangeably all the time, but functionally, there is a massive operational difference here. Think of recruitment as the transactional act of plugging a hole in a sinking boat. You need someone with a bucket right now. It's highly tactical. Talent acquisition, on the other hand, well, that's the strategic, long-term framework of designing a better, faster, completely leak-proof boat altogether. It's about identifying, attracting, and onboarding the absolute best possible talent to meet the company's long-term goals. So recruitment is a subset, it's a task. Talent acquisition is the entire architectural strategy. Next up is section 4, inside the TA ecosystem, and the village it takes to make this happen. So if talent acquisition is this massive architectural strategy, it is absolutely not a solo act. The talent acquisition ecosystem is the complete network of internal and external players required to strategically build a team. Now, what's really interesting about this is how moving your mindset from a single, isolated recruiter sitting alone at a desk to an interconnected ecosystem, it just completely changes the game. It removes the bottleneck from one person's shoulders and distributes the responsibility of growth across the entire organization. When everybody understands they're a part of the talent machine, the culture fundamentally shifts. Let's ground these players in reality for a second. First, you have the recruiter, who expertly drives the process and manages the flow. Then the hiring manager, who holds that crucial domain expertise and really feels the ultimate need. You've got the HR business partner aligning this specific hire with broader team health and organizational dynamics. You also have business leaders setting the overarching budget and the company's grand vision, and crucially, don't forget this one,
you have the candidates themselves. They are active participants with their own goals and desires, not just passive resources waiting to be processed. I literally cannot stress this enough. A misaligned ecosystem where these folks aren't constantly talking, that leads to disastrous hires. But a synchronized one, that builds absolute empires.
Notice that in a perfectly healthy ecosystem, no one dominates the process. Every single player we just talked about holds an equally critical piece of the puzzle. It's a delicate balance, right? If the hiring manager is disengaged and takes a week to review resumes, or the candidates are ignored and left in the dark for days, the entire wheel falls completely out of balance. Momentum dies, and you will undoubtedly lose top talent to competitors who just have a tighter, more respectful process. It requires all 5 pieces working in perfect unison to actually land a transformational hire. Now that we know the who, let's shift our focus to the when. Section 5 is the end-to-end life cycle, and exactly where talent acquisition fits into the whole shebang. Talent acquisition is a foundational phase within the broader employee life cycle. It is so vital to understand that TA isn't just an isolated, one-off event that happens at the beginning and is immediately forgotten the second the paperwork is signed. Not at all. It is a highly integrated phase that kicks off the entire employee journey. The way a candidate experiences their very first interview, or how a recruiter communicates expectations, that directly sets the tone for their entire tenure at the company. It's the ultimate first impression. If it's chaotic, they're going to expect a chaotic job, but if it's seamless and professional, they expect a high-performing culture. Let's walk through this high-level, end-to-end framework so you have a clean, really easy-to-remember mental model of how this operates chronologically. Step 1, it all starts with identifying the need within the ecosystem. This is where business leaders and hiring managers look at their roadmap and realize, hey, we have a specific skill gap we need to fill to achieve our goals. Step 2 is end-to-end TA execution. This is the heavy lifting. We're talking about sourcing passive candidates who aren't even looking for a job, marketing to attract top-tier talent, rigorous and fair interviewing, and careful strategic negotiating. And finally, Step 3, integration into the employee lifecycle. This is where the candidate accepts the offer, boards the ship, and the TA phase gracefully hands the baton off to ongoing employee development and retention programs. As promised, next we'll dive into the specific strategies and frameworks behind successful hiring. We've really established the foundation today, understanding the monumental shift from mere recruitment to strategic talent acquisition, the diverse ecosystem required to make it work, and exactly where it fits in the employee lifecycle. But I want to leave you with a provocative thought to spark your curiosity right now. Look closely at your own organization today. Are you operating with a reactive recruitment mindset, constantly putting out fires and desperately plugging leaks? Or have you actually matured into a proactive, strategic talent acquisition ecosystem? The answer to that question might just dictate the entire future success of your company. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.